Hi everybody, welcome back. This is December 19th. It's a Tuesday. Today's kind of video is going to go through relatively quickly here. We're going to review the blue worksheet we started, at least the bottom part of the blue worksheet we started yesterday in class, which is the bottom 4 questions for section 15.3. But today's bell ringer asks you, can you recall a time in the past 2 years where you witnessed complete strangers helping each other? Yesterday's discussion really found out different ways as to how individuals who were complete strangers to one another found ways to help each other out. Whether it was giving them symbols, giving them ideas of what they can do to make their lives a little bit easier, where can they get a handout, where can they find a job, and anything that they could have done to help themselves out in a very difficult time, which the Depression was. So I just ask you to look at a time in the past 2 years, whether it's something that you saw on the news, or whether it's something that you saw yourself and witnessed yourself, something that you even did. So if you have that bell ringer, if you want to answer that question in that way, by all means, you get that out and you can answer it there. All right. But then we start going into looking at more of these hobo signs, because I know we saw some of these in the books, but hobos are the individuals that do wander the roads and wander the streets and the landscape of the United States looking for work. And they leave these signs to each other as a form of almost like hieroglyphics, saying this is something you have to look out for when you see this happening. So it's definitely a cool little testimony to how dedicated they were to helping each other out from a very subtle way. Because, if someone writes down someone's home, someone's not home, they're going to understand that. But if you put these symbols up there, people don't know what those symbols mean, except, the people that are wandering around. So, and the question I ask is, why do you think they wanted to help each other? Going back to our bell ringer, people help each other out for certain reasons. And we look at the Depression and individuals helped each other out. So that's kind of the topic of the bell ringer question. Now, for the next 15 minutes of class, I give students the rest of the time to work on the second part of the blue worksheet. And then when we start doing that, if you need to take that time right now, make sure you take care of that and finish it. But what we're going to do now is kind of go over some of these answers for this part here, all right? As you can see at the top, I typed up the first part. Again, you can pause this video whenever to get some of these answers. I can make it a little bit closer for you here if you want to take a look at it. There's the first part. You can pause it right now if you want to get some of those answers, just in case you need to make them up. And then I'm going to scroll down here right now to do some of these other answers and go over these with you, all right? I have some pictures I want to show you on the PowerPoint as well to kind of help you understand, this is what many people went through. But we discussed ways that people and travelers helped each other during the Depression. How did farmers help each other through penny auctions? Well, most of that was, as a result, is like when many banks foreclosed on their, not foreclosed. Spelling. All right. So banks foreclosed on farms. They would then auction off the land to try to make money off of the land and the farm to try to get someone to pay it for it. And they would do it mostly to the neighbors of the individuals. Well, because all the farms at this time were struggling in the same way, not one farm was better than the other in terms of making profit, neighbors would only bid pennies at a time for the farm. And then once the winner of the auction bid, he probably paid 10, 20 cents for an entire farm. Then they give the farm back to the original owner. 10, 20 cents isn't a lot of money. So, that's what they called these penny auctions, because they went a penny at a time, and you would do it to try to keep it as cheap as possible so you can give it back to the original owner who would be very grateful for that land. So again, neighbors, they probably did know each other on the farms, but at the same time, farming land is not too close together. So when you see farmers do this for each other, it's a very good gesture, very nice to see, all right? Next one, why were jokes and cartoons important to help people through their troubles? All right. So any distraction was a good distraction at this point. Anytime you get someone laughing at a cartoon or at a joke, even if it was a joke that poked fun at somebody else's misfortunes. You get somebody to laugh with the person instead of at them. So again, it wasn't meant to be, disrespectful in any way, but it was just meant to help them out, get through this time of these very difficult times. Here's some cartoons here. Obviously Herbert Hoover, giving medicine to unemployment. As you can see here, this is Dr. Hoover's reducer. We're trying to reduce unemployment, kind of poking fun at Hoover here. Another cartoon, a lot of people pointing fingers at Hoover, blame it on Hoover here. So again, people trying to scapegoat their problems, onto somebody else and not their own. Because again, a lot of people, can't take the blame for a lot of their actions. People that got involved in the stock market, yes, we can blame those individuals for the faults, but a lot of people lost money in their banks that really didn't deserve to lose their money in those banks. So, definitely interesting to kind of take a look at how people now begin to scapegoat a lot of their issues on Hoover, specifically now that Hoover's not willing to do much. And we'll talk more about what Hoover tries to do tomorrow. Another cartoon is kind of funny, about a wise economist. Obviously the cartoon sees the squirrel as a wise economist because the squirrel asks, well, why didn't you save some money for the future when times were good? You think about what do squirrels do around the fall and the winter time when they get their food? Do they consume it immediately or do they save it? And most people say that squirrels definitely save it. They put it in places that hopefully no one else finds and no other animal will find, and the squirrel can use that to sustain themselves throughout the rest of winter. But then you get this person, victim of bank failure, that the bank that they put their money in lost everything. So someone took the money already and they can't get it back. So, this is one of those questions. It's just people finding themselves in a position of, I'm in the same position as this guy here. Maybe I should have been more like this squirrel and just save my money and keep it for a rainy day when times are tough. All right. So, essentially there, but it says that the squirrel is a wise economist. And through Mother Nature, a squirrel is a pretty wise economist because they don't consume everything they get immediately. They get it and they save it for later, which is a lot of what Americans should have returned back to as a result of this depression. And finally, last one here, I'm talking about prohibition, drowning the Statue of Liberty for the Great Depression, but obviously all the alcohol that is not being consumed as a result of prohibition is really impacting Americans, that American companies now cannot make alcohol, which is a big problem for them. All right, now this is in the question number 3, dealing with the 21st Amendment, in terms of why is the 21st Amendment why was it passed? Now, if you look at the reasons as to why prohibition was started, obviously they wanted to stop drinking alcohol because they saw alcohol as the root of all the problems in society. Well, we saw in the 1920s, getting rid of alcohol does not solve any problem whatsoever. You pass it to repeal, you pass it to try to get rid of alcohol, to make America better, to make America less drunk, thus you see less problems. Well, that's not really what happened. More problems occurred with organized crime and other issues. And also as the economy begins to dwindle at the end of the 1920s and then continues into the Depression in the 1930s, Americans begin to wonder, well, how can we get work? How can we get jobs? So, 2 things that this does. First, for all the breweries and the distilleries and everything like that, so it provides all the jobs there at that factory. And 2, all right, this is not something that can be taxed. See the same issue with marijuana today, with the idea that now that the government and some state governments that have taken marijuana and legalized it for recreational use, they actually have done their best to try and really make it a point to use the tax dollars to help the American people out. And the positive thing about that is the American people that live in those states now are seeing the governments make almost $1 billion already from marijuana sales and being able to tax it, which is a big, big number that people like to see. All right, so that's definitely a major boost for marijuana sales at this point. All right, so when we look at the next question, And again, alcohol relates exactly the same. You put people to work and gives jobs to the breweries, not only in brewing it, but also the transportation. You people to get out there to sell it, open up some more bars legally. You're putting people back to work, and that's a really positive notion. That's not fixing everything for everybody, but it's giving them a definite benefit. And then finally, number 4, why do you think building a massive skyscraper like the Empire State Building was seen as an act of inspiration and not a waste of money? Because, you build, the world's tallest building, people think that might be a waste of money and resources. However, it's about the symbolism of it. Take the underline out of here. All right, but it's a symbol that America can complete anything under any circumstances. If you go to New York City today, Empire State Building is definitely a building that still sticks out. That's remarkable as to what you can accomplish when you put the resources and the manpower behind it to get this thing built. So America can put anything under any circumstances. It's the world's all right. But it's the world's tallest building. It puts thousands of people to work building it. All right. So it's not a waste of money because to give Americans a sense of hope that the Empire State Building can be built, it can be done, no matter what the economic times may be. We can build the world's tallest building, essentially, with the really bad economic times. So that's really what it proves. You have the idea here that the Americans have the tallest buildings and you put thousands of people to work at that moment. So it's a great way to make people feel more confident about this, and actually have some fast facts here for you about the Empire State Building. So it is the world's tallest building, 102 floors. When it is completed, it's no longer the world's tallest building. It is completed in 13 months, which is faster than most houses get completed today. So 13 months of time, that's not a very long period of time to build the world's tallest building. But as you can see with the construction, very simple, square construction with that and how it's built. There's almost 4,000 workers involved that put together 7 million man hours. And with those workers in the high heights, there's only 5 official deaths recorded. All right. 57,000 tons of steel. So you're putting a lot of steel companies in business making this project. You're making 1,860 steps. Again, more people that you can put the work on. 6,500 windows. Glass companies making big amounts of money here, through this project to make sure you provide the glass for the building. Putting people to work to install 17 million feet of telephone wire. If you take a look at the distance in terms of how many miles that is, it's a lot. It's a long distance of telephone wires that are put in Empire State Building. And then you have 67 elevators, that are, excuse me, that are going to help transport people from the bottom to the top of the elevator in different areas. So, definitely a very, important project to make. Now, the one thing I like to show at the end of class here, and this is what I kind of showed most students, is what type of workers are needed to build a skyscraper. And some of them are like crazy, insane, nuts. As you can see, some of these high heights, when the building is being constructed, you're doing a lot of stuff here on the edge of what would be almost a disaster for some people, not having any safety harnesses whatsoever. But again, here's another one. Okay, I'll just show the pictures, and you can look and see what it takes to become someone who builds a skyscraper. Another one. You see the Chrysler building in the background there. All right. Lunchtime. But these guys didn't have to worry about, the heights at all. They just kind of trusted themselves, knowing that their bodies were in that, knowing that they had a job for a little over a year that helped pay them pretty good money to get them what they needed. And a lot of times, when they're going back here, most people slept on top of these buildings because it took too many resources, too much time to get them down to the top. So they'd spend maybe a week or two at a time on top of this building as it was going, in the middle of the elements. And it was tough. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world, but they got it done. They did a good job doing it. All right. Showed you that one, and then finally this one. So you can definitely see that this building took a very, very short time to build and put a lot of people to work, and it is that symbol that drives Americans forward. All right. Tonight, Check for Understanding is due. Make sure you take care of that. Do not forget that. It's due at 11:59 p.m. tonight. All right. Tomorrow, we're going to look at signs of change under Hoover. What does Hoover try to do to get the economy going, and what he believes is best? All right. And we'll see how that works out. All right. Everyone have a great day. Talk to you tomorrow.